Welcome
Hi.
to Global Lives. Hi, Amy.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice to have you here. Let me introduce the Global Lives theme of this episode to everyone who joined us today. So, as you know, every month we choose a topic of interest to global citizens, and we bring a specialist from our team, this time Amy, to help us navigate through a specific program or just understand a bit more about the work that we do at Global Citizen Solutions. So this week, we will talk to our real estate specialist about the best places to buy property in Portugal, which is, of course, a hot topic for property investors. Joining me today is Amy Connolly from the real estate team, Goldcrest Buyers Agent. Amy, before I start with you, let me just guide our viewers through this live. It should take no longer than 40 minutes, including a Q&A session with Amy at the end. But if you're strapped for time, you're not able to stay all the way to the end, start jotting down your questions here because a member of our team will be able to connect with you. We also live from Twitter, from LinkedIn, and of course from YouTube. And finally, if you haven't already done so, give us a like to help this video circulate. Hi, Amy. Finally, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Quite hot today in Portugal. But yeah, though it's good. Can't complain. It's always good when the sun is shining.
It's what we like. It's what we like.
Good. That's what we like. So Amy, without much further ado, I'd like to ask you a few questions. So I think it's safe to say, right, that we are exiting a pandemic, and in 2 years, a lot has changed. And I'd like to know in what way this has changed the search for a new property. How this has been affected.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting question to start with, actually. I think the pandemic in a way was actually quite a good thing for a lot of people, in the sense that a lot of people were able to work remotely. A lot of people realized that, potentially location and being close to their workplace didn't matter as much. So what we've seen is a higher trend in people maybe going to different geographical places, and also a shift in people's needs, because people are tending to maybe work from home more. It's led to them wanting obviously more space, more light, and a lot of people desiring outside space, as a non-negotiable. People that were stuck maybe in apartments for the worst bit of the pandemic now really want to find that space, with a terrace, maybe a small garden, maybe a balcony, and it's making it potentially easier for them to find their ideal home because they're not as tied to one location close to work like they maybe were 2 years ago. So I think it's changed a lot in that respect, for sure.
Yeah. So with that thought in mind, so people are have left the city centres because they can work remotely from outside the major hubs. Would you say that property prices went down in the big cities?
I think that's what everyone thought was going to happen. But the reality is actually quite the opposite. So I'm not sure about other places in the world, but in Portugal, the property prices actually increased. So I think Q1 of this year, it was just a little over 1% that the prices actually went up. So although a lot of people are obviously more mobile, wanting to purchase property outside of the city centres, in the same breath, there's still a lot of people still wanting, something in a buzzing metropolitan city. Especially Lisbon. It's really a hub now. It's globally recognized. So there's a lot of people still buying property, from all over the world, wanting a piece of Lisbon, essentially, or Porto. And it's not just it's not just the purchase prices for buyers that have increased. I think it's important as well to note that even the rental prices have increased. I think the average for Portugal now is a little under €1,000 a month. I think 990 roughly. That's the average rent per month in Portugal at the minute, which is it's a big increase from what it used to be a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I get the picture now, but I think now it would be nice to understand what we could expect in the near future when it comes to property investment in Portugal.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's been good at the moment. All the growth that we've seen and we've been continuing to see is really positive. But I think looking at a global perspective and being realistic, essentially, times are changing. It's becoming quite uncertain with things like inflation happening, not just in Portugal, but on a global scale. I think it's probably going to have some effect on the market here. Potentially, there could even be a recession, which, you could look at it as something quite worrying, quite a negative thing. Obviously, it's never good. But I think for a lot of our clients and buyers that maybe aren't reliant on mortgages, on those interest rates, if they've got the capital to invest, it's actually quite an exciting time to make a choice and get an investment.
Okay.
I just think it's really a time, in uncertain times, you kind of need that hand to hold and just to make sure you've got a really good support and someone to guide you of where it's going to be the best investment, if we do run into those uncertain times.
Definitely. Okay, so what you're saying, and so we are well aware of some uncertainty in the market, but that places some opportunities for cash buyers. And then that would bring me to the next question. How about the people applying for the Portugal Golden Visa? Is the real estate route still a good option? Can also
Absolutely.
remind our viewers about what the routes are, because
of course. Yeah. I mean, real estate is still, I would say, the most popular option for the Golden Visa. It's definitely still possible. It's definitely still a really solid investment route for Golden Visa. I mean, going back to January, there was a lot of changes to the requirements. It used to be that you could purchase, anywhere in Portugal. But since January of this year, the government decided to make some restrictions to certain areas on what type of property you could buy. So you can still buy a property across the entirety of Portugal. It's just the type of property that's now being defined by the government. So we actually did a video on this on the YouTube channel about the changes. So if people want more information, they can obviously go there, but I'll try and explain it as best as I can now. But essentially, you can still buy commercial real estate and residential real estate. The commercial real estate is restricted to basically, I'm not sure, we did make a map. I'm not sure.
I was going to ask if there's something visual.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
There you go. Perfect.
So this is what we use with clients, and it's super helpful, just to help them understand where qualifies for what. So if you take a look at this map, where you can see the dark blue and the light blue, you can see this on there as well. That is now commercial only. So high density is the dark blue, commercial only, and low density and commercial only is the light blue. So it means you can't buy a residential property there to go and live in and use as your home. Where you can see the darker red and the lighter red, that is for residential and commercial, and that's again the high density areas and the low density areas. And it says in the law that was written that they're interior regions, but as you can see from the map, there's still a lot of coastline that still qualifies south of Lisbon, all the way down that coast to the very bottom, close to the Algarve. And you've also got the islands, the Azores and Madeira. They obviously aren't in the interior of continental Portugal, but they also qualify as an interior region. So I think people were worried that they weren't going to have a lot of choice, but there's a lot of country there to explore, a lot of beautiful places and a lot of exciting opportunities for people to investigate. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Absolutely, and thanks for explaining that so well. And this map is very useful. So I'd like to share with our viewers that they will be able to access this map. It will all be in the comments, and it will redirect you to the website. And we also have a video that talks about it, and soon you will find it in the comments there. Great. Okay, so this is amazing info, and I think now that many of our viewers are wondering where they should invest.
Okay.
We actually got some questions about that. So what would you respond to that?
I would say, of course, it depends. If you were buying for Golden Visa or for non-Golden Visa, it would differ. We have clients looking at both, people just for the buyer's agency and people looking to acquire a visa through their investment. So, I mean, of course, Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve are, the most popular places to invest. I think, to own a piece of any of the capital cities is going to be a really solid investment if you can. There are still ways that you can invest even still now in Lisbon and Porto and the Algarve into commercial property. It just comes with a kind of business. So it would be something that's still real estate, maybe an apartment, but it would potentially be part of a managed, building of serviced apartments. You wouldn't be able to live there, but you would still own it. So you could invest somehow like that for Golden Visa. But what I think is really interesting since the Golden Visa changes is we've, found some really beautiful, really exciting areas that, have a lot of growth still in these low density parts of the country. So one is Évora, which is about an hour and a half drive from Lisbon Airport. It's actually the capital of Alentejo, which is just southeast of Lisbon. And it's a really beautiful agricultural part of the country. It's sort of a wine country as well. A lot of wine comes from Alentejo. And Évora is its sort of capital city, a small city, yes, but also a very beautiful one.
It's good that you brought up Évora because there is one comment here in the chat. So yeah, well done. Carry on.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So Évora, it's also a student city. So there is a lot of opportunities there, for student rentals. It's quite a healthy, steady income. And of course, it qualifies for the discount being low density. So essentially, the minimum threshold there for Golden Visa is 280,000 for a rehabilitation project. So in terms of, bang for buck, it's a really interesting place. And we've had a lot of clients that have ended up purchasing there. And another similar kind of location is very close to Comporta, Alcácer do Sal.
Okay.
It's not as far inland. It's closer to the beach. And again, it's only an hour and a half from Lisbon Airport, and it still qualifies for the GV and it's low density. So I think they're really interesting options in terms of rehabilitation projects, that kind of minimum investment for the GV.
Yeah.
And then of course, like you saw on the map, that entire coastline close to the Algarve, to the west of the Algarve, is incredibly beautiful. And for 400,000 as a minimum investment, you could purchase a home there that you could do with what you pleased. So there's a lot of interesting places, and Madeira as well. We've had a lot of interest in Madeira as a place. There's a lot of character there. It's very beautiful. There's a lot of tourism. So I think that's also really interesting,
Yeah.
an interesting opportunity for clients. Yeah.
Madeira and Azores, both islands are being receiving a lot of infrastructural development, and there are direct flights as well to major city hubs, namely London, the USA as well. So it's definitely very interesting spots to invest. And as you said, I can vouch for Comporta. It's such a beautiful part of Portugal, and for any of our viewers who are a bit confused about the names of the towns and cities that we've been talking about here, no worries, our team will write it down in the chat so you can carry on with your research. Right, so some amazing options here. Thank you very much. Now I have kept the most painful topic for the end, which are taxes.
Yay!
Yay! We love it. We love taxes. We just don't like to pay, but we need to know about taxes. Can you give us an overview of the taxes that we need to pay when buying a property in Portugal?
Yeah, of course. So like you said, we don't like to pay them, but we have to. So in Portugal, there's essentially three main taxes that you're going to have to pay upon completion. The first is the IMI tax.
Oh, you've got a visual here. Excellent. Thank you.
Table. So the first is the IMI, as you can see there, falls between 0.3 and 0.45%. The next one is probably the biggest one, the chunkiest, heftiest one that you're going to have to pay, which is the IMT, or property purchase tax. So that's actually calculated depending on how much you're investing, the value of the property, but that's going to be the largest amount out of your taxes when you come to complete. Then you've also got the stamp duty. Again, it's a sliding scale, so between 0.4 and 0.8. And then, of course, if you're a client looking to spend more money on a property, and you're an individual, then anything over 600,000, you're going to pay 0.7 as well.
Okay.
And it's really interesting actually to have that capital gains tax in there as well. I mean, it doesn't apply upon completion of purchasing a property. It would only apply if, when you came to sell and you weren't a resident, you would have to pay the flat rate of 25% capital gains. So although it's a tax, it's not a tax that you need to worry about, to purchase the property or at the time of submitting for your golden visa. So I think that's a really helpful table, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
The three big ones, and then you're done. And I suppose it's worth noting as well that on your closing, we get asked this a lot, you also have things like notary fees when you come to sign the deeds, which are around 500 euros, give or take. So that's just an extra cost to bear in mind.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing this information and preparing this visual as well. It helps a lot. And I just want to remind our viewers that we do have, Goldcrest has written a book on how to buy a property in Portugal. And it presents all this information. There's a table with a very comprehensive list of all the taxes that are involved in buying a property, and we will also share the link in our in the comments. Sorry, not the comments, but when we publish the video, you know what I'm saying.
We also did a video on this for the YouTube. If people want to hear more of me, taxes. There's a whole video.
So that brings me to my next topic. So let's pop our virtual bottle of champagne open, because Goldcrest has its own YouTube channel. Tell us more about it, Amy.
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting. Me and my colleague Joao have been filming lots and lots of videos, some about tax, some about market insights, a lot about obviously real estate. And we've also been, Joao's been going around and doing some really great videos on different areas of Lisbon for now. We'll expand everywhere eventually, but just really interesting, really insightful, tours of different neighborhoods that maybe people haven't heard of in Lisbon, just to give people a really good overview. So we're very excited.
Very exciting. And it looks like you guys are having lots of fun
Yes.
whilst filming it. So I'm sure it will be entertaining as well as informative to our viewers. We will leave the the link in the description so you can also watch these videos. So we are reaching the end, but we have a few minutes for a Q&A. And we've got lots of very interesting questions here. Some have been answered already by our team. So I'm just going to pick some here that are kind of encompasses a couple of questions. Amy, where can I buy residential real estate?
Residential real estate you can buy in low density interior regions and high density interior regions of Portugal, including the islands like we talked about. So residential everywhere, interior, low and high density, you can buy residential real estate.
Okay, so interior area with low density, a 20% discount will apply.
Exactly.
Okay. Right, so let's go for the next one. Can I buy a residential property in Lisbon and rent it?
Wow, that's an interesting one. So you can't buy one for golden visa necessarily yourself and rent it out yourself personally. Okay. What you can do is purchase a residential property. Like I said before, it could be an apartment in a building of serviced apartments that's being managed by a business, and you're signing a lease with them for maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So it's residential in the sense that people are living in it. It's not a shop, it's not a restaurant, it's not office space. But you're not going to be able to reside in it or rent it out, putting it on Airbnb yourself. That's not going to be possible. Of course, if you're not purchasing for the golden visa, you absolutely can purchase a property in Lisbon and rent it out yourself. The only thing I would say to be watchful of if you're looking at Lisbon, and that's where I think we provide a lot of help to our clients, is there's a lot of areas of the city that are contention zones now, which means it's difficult to get this alojamento local license, which you need by law to be able to short rent your apartment. So, of course, we know exactly where to buy and where not to buy if you're looking to do that. But it's also worth noting, I think, if anyone's watching has maybe read the news, there was a lot of worry and scaremongering recently around the Airbnb and the AL licenses, because everyone thought the law was going to change and it was going to restrict everything even more. Essentially, the law hasn't changed. Nothing in the law has changed. It's not been rewritten. All that's happened is there's the Supreme Court is accepting that there's judicial precedence. So if one day someone decided, in the building to get angry with their neighbor who was renting out for Airbnb and take them to court, it's quite likely there's a risk that obviously the court would rule in that person's favor because it's the judicial precedent. But of course, it's not guaranteed. And, in that sense, nothing's really changed apart from that. It's exactly the same as it was.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for us, it's not changed.
Yeah. So the main takeaway here is that you need to be well supported by local specialists that will understand all the implications regarding, from taxes to law and decisions that may happen in court or not. So now, we don't have much time, so let's go to our last question. Can I buy a house as a commercial property?
A house as a commercial property? Technically, yes. If the house is part of a managed company, essentially. So you might have a condominium in the Algarve or somewhere close to the beach that has villas. They manage them for you. It's run as a business, as a company. Essentially, that would qualify and be a commercial property.
Okay.
So it would be possible, yes.
Amy, just one quick question here. Are you able to speak about some up and coming places in Portugal around Lisbon, considering that Lisbon has gotten expensive?
Around Lisbon, yeah, of course. I think south of the bridge
South of the
is a
bridge, I'd say,
really,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. You know, it's areas like Seixal, Barreiro.
Yeah.
They're very well connected to Lisbon. Obviously, the Tejo is it's quite a big river, and you've got the bridge. The bridge can get trafficy, but there's a lot of ferries that cross, you know, constantly all day, and they come right into the center of the city, into Cais de Sodré. So the property is dramatically cheaper on the south side of the river. So I think that's a really interesting place if people are looking to maybe get into an emerging market, and you're not in the city center, but you know, it's a 20-minute ferry, and you're there. So I would definitely recommend there.
Yeah, it's definitely a good area. All right. And I think now we've reached the end, and I'm very sorry we don't have time for more questions. But unfortunately, our time's up. I know we've got more questions. We've been flooded by questions here, but it's not a problem at all, because our team will remain online answering your questions. Yes, Amy's on LinkedIn. One question here. And but we have to go. Our time's up, guys. Okay, thank you. Do you have any last words that you want to share?
Just, you know, I think anyone wanting to come to Portugal, a lot of our clients haven't visited before. I think, you know, don't be scared, don't be worried. We're all very friendly. It's a beautiful country, and you know, any worries or fears that you have, you know, we're here to help and ultimately hold everyone's hand through the process. And I think you're making a great decision, because I love living in Portugal.
Yes, me too. Good luck with the Goldcrest YouTube channel. Looking forward to see more videos. And again, thank you for being here. Thanks to our audience for watching us. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel. And we will see you next week for our Global Live about how to get Portuguese nationality. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.